The St. Louis Cardinals offense is in a funk, and it's got fans wanting changes in the dugout yet again.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio, as well as the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. So after scoring, 18 runs? That's what it was, right? 18 runs in 2 games against the Rangers last week. The Cardinals offense has fallen into another ice age, so to speak. They're in a funk again. Things are not going their way. It's a funk that is eerily similar to the one that we saw them in at the beginning of the season when they were a losing ball club, which is what they have been recently. Outside of game 1 against the Cubs, the offense really didn't do much in Chicago. And then they hit rock bottom on Monday when they didn't even get a runner to third base. Yeah. Didn't get a runner to third base on Monday in a dreadful 6-0 loss to the New York Mets. Now, the Cardinals could very easily be on a 5-game losing streak right now, if not for the Cubs handing them the win on Saturday with their 8th inning collapse. I think we can be honest with each other. The Cubs should have won that game. You could say the Cardinals should have won that first game, but the Cardinals didn't just hand that game over. The Cubs came back and beat them by hitting Ryan Helsley. The Cubs just kind of gave that game away on Saturday, allowing the Cardinals to tie that game up, and then eventually the Cardinals had to win it. But even though they got a W in that game, it still feels like they lost, right? Because the last 2 games, they've hardly done anything offensively, and their pitching hasn't been all that good either. It's just been bad since that blown save in Chicago. We could sugarcoat things and say, Fetty looked good after he gave up 5 runs. Kyle Gibson looked good after he'd already given up 4 runs. But the reality is that they gave up those runs. They weren't very good to start the games. It put the team in a bind. And at this particular moment, this team couldn't hit water if they fell out of a freaking boat with runners in scoring position. It is awful. Awful, brutal, terrible, gross. We have so many words we can use, so many adjectives to describe how poopy this team is hitting with runners in scoring position. I tweeted it out earlier today. Cardinals were 3 for 25 with runners in scoring position in the 4-game series in Chicago, 0 for 7 on Monday against the Mets. So in the past 5 games, they've only scored 14 runs, 3 of them gifts from the Chicago Cubs in that 8th inning, and are a dismal 3 for 32 with runners in scoring position while going 1-4, even though it feels like 0-5. A really tough time of year to go Antarctica cold on offense again. And it came out of nowhere, too, because, again, 18 runs in those final 2 games against the Rangers. Remember, we're all singing praises about, woo! John Mozeliak stole Tommy Pham and Eric Fetty. Look at Pham. Look what he's doing. Look at this offense. It's alive. Everyone was getting a piece of the action in those 2 games. And now, outside of Mason Wynn and Tommy Pham, they've hardly done anything at the plate. Alec Burleson has been tremendous most of the season. All right? Can't take that away from him. But he's in a dry spell right now. Since July 22nd, he's hitting 154. Paul Goldschmidt, who looked so much better recently. He had 3 hits in that game 1 loss to the Cubs. Since that night, 0 for his last 14. Nolan Arenado has been accumulating hits, but he's not doing a lot of damage. And outside of the bloop single against the Cubs on the pop-up they screwed up that ended up scoring 2, outside of that, he's got 1 RBI since July 26th. Wilson Contreras has disappeared. He has 0 RBIs since July 28th and is batting 133. Nolan Gorman doesn't even hardly play anymore. You forget that he's even on the team. Hasn't had an RBI since July 22nd. He's 1 for 15 since that point, which is a 67 batting average. Like, if you're not going to play him, why is he on the roster? Like, sit him down. Let him figure it out. What's going on there? Brendan Donovan has 1 RBI in his last 5 games. Lars Nootbaar hasn't had a multi-hit game since July 20th and is hitting 220 since then. And these are your big thumpers. Those are your guys, man. These are the guys who are supposed to carry you most of the time. And if 1 or 2 of them goes cold, the other guys are supposed to be good enough to pick them up, and it's just not happening. I mean, they all look lost at the plate. The effort today against the Mets was terrible. Like, none of them looked like they wanted to be at the ballpark. They looked awful. And it would be different if you were seeing these guys making outs and they were, stinging the ball and they're hitting line drives and it's just, bad luck. It's happening. They're hitting it right at people. That is not happening at all. That is not the case. And naturally, when things begin to go south and things tend to sour, that's when the fans start asking for people to be fired, because that's what fans do. That's why they're called fanatics. Now, I don't know how many times I have to say this, because it just makes me laugh every time I see anybody tweet, fire Ollie. They're not. Ollie Marmol is not getting fired. Stop it. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your breath. He's not getting fired this season, period. I'll say it one more time. Ollie Marmol, is this thing on? Ollie Marmol is not getting fired. He just got an extension this offseason and is going to be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals until John Mozeliak is no longer in charge. Barring, I suppose, if they go winless the rest of the way and start next year 0-25, maybe they'll fire him, okay? But it's going to be something ridiculous and just crazy like that for them to move on from Ollie. It's not happening, so stop. So if you're going to die on that hill, though, and you're like, no, I hate Ollie, fire him, it's his fault, and I'm not rooting for the Cardinals while Ollie's the manager, then we'll see in 2027 when his contract is up. Okay? Enjoy your 2-year sabbatical from Cardinals baseball. But someone who could get replaced, somebody who could be on the chopping block, hitting coach Turner Ward. Now, I wouldn't expect anything like that until the off season, but it is something that could certainly happen. So who might the team turn to if that does go down? Good question, right? We're going to discuss it next on Locked On Cardinals. Now, I know you're aware of this, but it is hot. It is humid in St. Louis. What was the temperature of the game today? Like 94, humidity like 115, something just nasty. Hot, humid, got to stay hydrated in moments like that so you can enjoy your outdoor activities like going to Cardinal baseball games or going to Six Flags or whatever it is that you do outside. So that is where Liquid IV comes into play to help you out. You can get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Liquid IV is more than a drink. It's a science-backed way to hydrate better than you ever have before. And on top of it, it's delicious. It's not like some powdery, grody drink or anything. It is phenomenal. Tons of flavors to choose from. You're certain to find a couple of them that you're going to like. I like white peach. I'm a peach guy. I've always loved white peach. Tangerine delicious. Rainbow sherbet. You got cotton candy. You've got the iconic summer flavor of popsicle firecracker. You can find all of those flavors and more on their website, which is liquidiv.com. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone with 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink and 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. No more thirsty summers. When you indulge in hydration, with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume because of all the shouting? Then go ahead and make that switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming, and it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Cardinals. And thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. A lot of comments have been coming recently. When the Cardinals go bad, you get a lot more comments. When they win, everybody's like, hey, they're supposed to do that. But when they lose, oh boy, people come in hot. They are angry. They are not happy with what's going on. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's miserable to watch. Watching today's game against the Mets was miserable. There was nothing about it that was fun at all. Nothing. I don't think I had a single ounce of enjoyment in that game today. It was just brutal. And when it comes to the offense and the struggles that they've had, people start blaming people. First, you always start at the top with Ollie. And then you go, all right, well, if Ollie's not going to get fired, what about the hitting coach? What about Turner Ward? Let's fire his butt, right? I don't know how much you can blame the hitting coach. This is something I've struggled with because, I'm not in the clubhouse. I'm not in the meetings, the hitting meetings and stuff like that. Like, how much blame actually should be on the hitting coach for what's going on? It's their job to get the guys the information that they need to have positive at-bats. What do opposing pitchers throw? What are their tendencies? Advice when they're in slumps, things to work on, man. Alter your batting stance a little bit, where you're putting your hands, how you're loading. All of these things are things that they're watching. Slumps happen to everybody. Nobody's immune to them. So they're there to kind of help you get back and get you regular again, right? They can go over video with you, launch angles, all that stuff. They're there to help. And he's got a lot of guys that he's got to talk to about this stuff, right? You got over a dozen guys in that clubhouse on the offensive side of things that he's got to help out. But it's also on the guys themselves to take the at-bats. Turner Ward can't hit the ball for them. He can't make them have a better eye at the plate. He can't tell Nolan Arenado not to swing at the up and away cutter that's out of the zone on a 2-0 pitch like he did this past weekend in Chicago. Like, those are things that the hitter has made a decision on. He's not like an offensive coordinator in football where, he's creating the plays, he's calling the plays against these defenses. And when they fail, exactly to who to point the blame at. In my opinion, the blame goes more on the players than it should go on the hitting coaches. But when an offense has the names that the St. Louis Cardinals have, and they continue to scuffle like they have had last year and this year, since Turner Ward's been the head guy, sometimes a change is necessary. Sometimes it's healthy to just move on, get a new voice in there, and see what happens. Now, Goldie and Nato and Wilson Contreras, these veteran guys are at points in their careers where they probably don't really need a hitting coach. Like, it's nice to have that guy to talk to, and I'm sure he goes through drills with them and does the work. That is something that we have always heard, that all of the coaches on Ollie's staff, all of them put in the work, put in the hours. They're not lazy people, but the results aren't coming through, right? And the guys I'm more concerned about are what's going on with these young hitters. That's what I'm worried about. Goldie, Nato, Willie, they'll figure things out on their own. But the Dylan Carlson failure, after all the hype coming through the system, and then he gets to the pros and he has the one good year, and I know injuries were a part of it, but still never could figure it out, right? We're seeing Nolan Gorman regress to a point where he's hardly playing. That's unacceptable. There's no way Nolan Gorman should be so bad that he is not playing for the St. Louis Cardinals anymore. Like, that's crazy. This is a guy who's got 40 home run, 90, 100 RBI potential, and he can't even crack the lineup anymore because he's so bad at the plate right now. That's unacceptable. Jordan Walker has barely played at the major league level this year. Did some good things last year, especially in the second half. Starts off the year ice cold, goes to Memphis. Things don't get all that much better. He just recently started ripping the ball at Memphis with authority. He hit one, just clobbered one the other day, like the farthest home run he's ever hit as a pro. So that was good to see. He's been hitting much better. Victor Scott is back, but he had a rough time at the major league level to start the year. Lars Nootbaar has not become the hitter we all thought he would a couple of years ago. You thought he was going to continue to progress, and he hasn't gotten any better. Again, injuries have been a problem for Lars to stay on the field, but still, when he is in there, he's not doing all that much. This concerns me. It should concern you as well. Why do young hitters struggle so much with the Cardinals and then tend to blossom elsewhere more times than not? You know, I mean, you've seen, do I have to name all the guys? No, I don't think I do. But you know that they're out there and they've gone to other places and have these really solid careers. And you're wondering, like, why didn't it happen in a Cardinal uniform? What is the difference? What are the Cardinals doing differently? And what are they telling these guys that isn't working here, but they go somewhere else and boom, they become solid players? Now, not everybody stinks that's a young hitter on this team. Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson have been very, very good this year. Michael Ciani is a rookie and was progressing quite well before the oblique injury just knocked him out. So not everyone stinks, but there's been a lot more struggling than thriving with this offense. And because he's super smart and pays attention to what the fans are saying online, our friend Thomas Govain got ahead of all of this and actually released an article, a blog today at redbirdrans.com, actually on Monday morning, about possible replacements for Turner Ward. So let's go through the guys he's got on his list because he's a smart dude. The first one I want to bring up, which is somebody that has been brought up to me multiple occasions, and you've heard him talking about hitting a whole lot during Cardinal broadcasts, would be Cardinals Hall of Famer Jim Edmonds. Now, I know that Jimmy rubs people the wrong way during his telecast. Sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, shut up. But for me, when I'm listening to him talking about hitting, his insight on hitting and when people are having at bats and how he would approach things and stuff, I find that very interesting. I enjoy hearing Jimmy talk about hitting. The guy was pretty darn good back in the day. And, you know, obviously because his job's in broadcasting, he's kept up with, you know, what's going on with the analytics and such. It's not always easy for somebody who was good at a sport to then teach that particular sport, because a lot of what they received was God-given talent. And obviously they work at it, but some of them are just born with it. And Jimmy had to work pretty hard to become a really good hitter, because his early years with the Angels, he was fine, but he really took off when he got to St. Louis, right? My issue with Jimmy, and Thomas actually brings this up in his write-up, is that he may not have a desire to do a job like this because it's a full-time gig. You know, it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of travel. Jimmy Edmonds is not the full-time broadcast partner on Bally's. You know, he's a part-time guy, and he seems very comfortable in that role. He just doesn't strike me as someone who would want to commit to something like that and go on the road all the time and put in the hours that it would take that, you know, you need to do as the hitting coach for a Major League Baseball team. So, and I don't blame him. I mean, he spent a lot of his years, you know, in the major leagues traveling and doing all this stuff. It's okay that he doesn't want to do that anymore, you know, similar to what Matt Holliday did this offseason. You know, he was going to be, you know, the bench coach, and then had second thoughts, decided, you know what, I want to be around my kids and my wife more. And I can't commit to something like full-time coaching duties. And I feel like this is just an observation. I have no idea if this is true or not, but Jimmy Edmonds comes off as somebody who likes what his role is right now and probably isn't interested in becoming a full-time coach. So, and Thomas says that as well in his write-up, that he's like, I don't think that's something he wants to do. Another name on his list is Howie Clark, who is the hitting coach for AAA Memphis. Now, we know the Cardinals like to hire from within when they can. That's something they like to do. They like to bring people up through their system. That's how Ollie got the job. Mike Schilt got the job before that. You see how this works for the Cardinals. That's just kind of what they do. So here's what Thomas says about Howie Clark. In his year and a half as the hitting coach for the Cardinals AAA affiliate, he's managed to lead an offense that is in the top half of the International League. Last year, Memphis finished 6th in runs scored, 9th in batting average, 6th in on-base percentage, and 12th in OPS. There are a total of 20 teams in the International League. The story this year is a bit different, however, as Memphis ranks 18th in runs scored, 13th in OPS, and 15th in batting average. Clark seems to be the safe play here as he's familiar with the organization after having coached for 2 years in the system now. Also players such as Thomas Ajayci, Jordan Walker, Victor Scott II, Mason Wynn, and Ivan Herrera are all quite familiar with him. These players are poised to be the young core of the roster heading into 2025 and 2026. So Clark's familiarity with this crop of young talent could bode well for his case to supplant Turner Ward. I think he makes sense. That sounds like something the Cardinals would do, right? If Turner Ward is out, let's bring up the guy from AAA. We like him. We know him. He's part of our system, and we trust him already. So it would be kind of a seamless transaction there. So we'll continue with his list next because I want to get you one of the names that he brings up from outside the Cardinals organization. So we'll do that next on Locked On Cardinals. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch your winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends. Become a part of the PrizePicks community today, and you can get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on PrizePicks. With PrizePicks, you could turn like $10, which not a whole lot these days, right? You know, what is that, a couple of coffees? Turn that into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and a whole lot more, and do it in as little as 60 seconds. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast with my guy Sully. He's here to provide daily national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So next on Thomas Gauvain's, I wanted to say Sajayci there. Next on Thomas Gauvain's list at redbirdranch.com. Again, I will link the article, the full article, because he gives you 5 candidates. I'll link that in the description and the show notes for you here. But this is a guy who's from outside the Cardinals organization, a guy by the name of Donnie Ecker, who is currently the offensive coordinator. Yes, that is the correct name of what he does, the offensive coordinator for the defending world champion Texas Rangers. Now, here's what Thomas has to say about Donnie. Cardinals hired Donnie Ecker back in 2015 to work in player development, and he stayed in St. Louis for 3 years. He was also the hitting coach for Palm Beach in 2015 and 2016 and Peoria in 2017. He moved up quickly to become the Los Angeles Angels AAA hitting coach in 2018. The Cincinnati Reds then hired him as their assistant hitting coach in 2019. He worked as a hitting coach for the San Francisco Giants in 2020, and he's been the bench coach and offensive coordinator of the Rangers since 2021. Now, he says, according to an article in The Athletic, Ecker remaining a hitting coach is a lateral move that he is far beyond at this point in his coaching career. Ecker seems to be in line for a front office position, possibly as an assistant general manager or even a general manager. Should he remain a hitting coach, he wouldn't be moving up in the baseball hierarchy, so getting him to return as just a humble hitting coach would be an impressive feat for the Cardinals. He suggests maybe bringing him in like the Cardinals did with Chaim Bloom as an outside voice as a way to kind of lure him in and get him to be a part of the organization and help turn things around a little bit. That's the thing, though, is the writing is kind of on the wall with Chaim Bloom. Like it's like, Mozeliak's got a couple of years left. He's going to move out. Bloom could be your job. It's kind of like yours in the waiting. They're trusting him with helping them decide on trades that they're making, that he's helping like, hey, what do you know about this guy? You like him? It's made sense that the Cardinals have done deals with the Red Sox and the Rays, places Bloom has already been and knows the personnel there. It makes sense that those are some of the places they've done trades with. And I just don't see where Ecker would have a job waiting for him. Like, what's he going to take over as? So unless he's going to be the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals. So I don't know if that's something that's going to happen, but it's another name to think about. Now he brings up two other possibilities. One's another internal one, and then you've got another external one. Again, I've linked the story in the description and show notes. You can check those two out for yourself, but just a few names to kind of think about, kind of ponder over if Turner Ward is out as the hitting coach for the St. Louis Cardinals by the end of the year. Again, I don't think they'll replace him during the season. That doesn't sound like a Cardinal thing to do, especially when you're still a game over 500. You're still in the playoff hunt. It just doesn't seem like that would make a lot of sense for the Cardinals to do that. It's not, they don't make drastic moves like that very often. So it doesn't sound like something they do, but maybe this offseason they get some turnover there on the coaching staff, specifically on the offensive side. Dusty Blake seems to be entrenched. I know the Cardinals pitching staff hasn't been great recently, but overall, you would have to say that this year's been much better than last year. And Dusty probably has something to do with it. There hasn't been as much complaining about Dusty Blake this year, specifically compared to what the complaints have been on Turner Ward so far. So I know people are going to say in the comments, I can tell you it's going to happen already. They're going to say, hire Albert Pujols, hire Yadier Molina, try Matt Holliday again. And as much as those names sound cool, you got to remember these guys have to want to do those jobs. And I'm not sure any of them are ready for a commitment like that. Obviously, Yachty, we thought he was going to come in and do all sorts of things for the team this year. That has not happened. Albert Pujols has got his deal with the Angels that he's still going through. I don't see him as somebody who wants to get back on the road and being a full-time coach. Holliday obviously still has kids that he's trying to bring up, and he wants them to be successful like Jackson Holliday is with the Orioles. So I don't see him taking over a role. Maybe they can butter him up a little bit, but it sounds like it's not something he's going to be doing. So that's the problem with guys like that. Now, someone who might be interested and is a name that's been brought up recently, Ryan Ludwig, former Cardinal All-Star Ryan Ludwig. He's a roving instructor and a special advisor in the organization. And the reason he got brought up recently is because he was the guy that finally got Victor Scott to kind of alter his batting stance and his leg kick, and got things turned around for Victor down at AAA Memphis. And there was a story, and I'm trying to remember who wrote it. I don't know if it was Daniel Guerrero or Derek Gould. I forget who did it, and I apologize. But somebody wrote up the story where it's not like Ludwig was the only person that suggested this to Victor Scott. Other people had done it, and Victor was admittedly stubborn about changing anything, decided finally, I'll do it. And things have worked out nicely for him. And now he's back at the major league level. So maybe somebody like Ryan Ludwig could be a dark horse of sorts. But for now, it is still Turner Ward's job. And hopefully these guys can just get it figured out here real soon. Dylan Carlson and the Tampa Bay Rays. I know it sounds weird. They're in town for the next 3 days. The Rays were sellers at the trade deadline, moving a bunch of names. Obviously, Sean Armstrong came over to the Cardinals, who pitched again today, gave up a solo shot to Jeff McNeil, which is really annoying because I find him to be an annoying player. I don't know why. I don't know why he bothers me so much, but he does. Anyway, but Armstrong ended up striking out 4 Mets hitters over 2 1/3 innings. He's now got 6 strikeouts total in 3 innings since joining the Cardinals. So outside of the home run, it hasn't been too bad. It's kind of looked good. You've also got former Cardinal Randy Arozarena got traded to the Mariners. Zach Eflin got moved. Aaron Savali, Isaac Paredes. They moved a lot of names. They're 3-2 since the deadline, and they have a better record than the Cardinals. Then they were sellers at the deadline. They're 57-54, but are 9 back in the AL East and 4.5 back in the wild card. Things are a little more difficult over the American League side. The Cardinals are currently now 6 back in Milwaukee, 4 back in the wild card, and they'll have to face another left-hander. Another left-hander is coming your way on Tuesday. His name is Jeffrey Springs. Cardinals just got carved up by back-to-back lefties and Sean Manaea on Monday and then Justin Steele back on Sunday. It's been a rough go, man. The Cardinals are hitting just .227 against left-handers this year. That is ahead of only the Chicago White Sox. Hold on. Let me see if they lost yet. Let me check if because they're playing Oakland tonight, so they're out on the West Coast. They were losing. Where are we at? Oakland, where are you at? Oakland beats the White Sox 5-1. So the White Sox have lost. That's 21 games in a row, dude. 21, dude. That's crazy. That is crazy. But that's the only team the Cardinals are better at when it comes to batting average against left-handers. The team that has now lost 21 in a row. That's bad. They're on base percentage second to last, ahead of only the Marlins. Slugging second to last, ahead of only Miami again. And your OPS, second to last, again, ahead of only Miami, which is nuts to think about when you feature Wilson Contreras, Paul Goldschmidt, and Nolan Arenado in your lineup. Guys who in their careers torch left-handed pitching. Willie is a career .272 hitter with an .877 OPS against lefties. This year, obviously, he hasn't been able to play as much because of the arm injury. Only 57 at-bats against lefties, so the Cardinals have missed that. Goldie, a career .323 hitter with a 1.011 OPS against lefties. This year, he's down to .294, which isn't terrible. .804 OPS before Monday when he was 0-4. And Notto's been the one that's really been bad compared to his career numbers. .299 hitter, .938 OPS against lefties in his career. This year, he is an abysmal .243 with a .674 OPS before Monday's game. Like, what happened? We don't know. If we knew those answers, we would have texted them to Turner Ward already. Sonny Gray will be on the bump for the Cardinals on Tuesday. Had a great game on Thursday against the Cubs, but saddled with the no decision after the blown save. Hopefully he'll be able to replicate that performance because the Cardinals, they need a win, man, and they need to turn this thing around ASAP. Plus, Tuesday's my birthday, and it'd be nice to get a win to help celebrate. So that would be cool. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter, X, at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. You can also like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube and help our channel and our love for the St. Louis Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Hopefully, a win next time around.